AI is really good for starting projects. It's not great at finishing them. So if you imagine it a bit like a funnel, I would use AI to do the research to identify what one is the best creators to work with. Two is the kind of topic and contents that are going to resonate with that creator's audience.
GTM AI podcast with Jonathan Moss and Coach K. Tune in now, don't delay. Catch the future on display. In a world of tech.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It is I, Jonathan Clarkford, aka Coach K, and this is the GTM AI podcast. I am thrilled because I have a good friend of mine on the podcast with me. I always have good guests, but today I'm especially thrilled because I just like hanging out with Hector Forwood, who is the CEO of Fluencer. We worked together for a while on many different levels, and I just have nothing but love and respect for you, my man. So how are you?
What an introduction, and echo the same sentiment. I'm fantastic. Thanks.
Yes.
Decided to actually sit down and do a more fun, optimize recording because we end up talking about every kind of topic ever. So yeah, excited to do this.
Yeah, to be clear, to give you some context, and we'll dive into this more, but you run influencer campaigns for different brands, and I've been both a person who has been a brand working with you and also an influencer. So I've seen you from both sides of the fence, and then we've had some other things on a personal level we've talked about. And yeah, you're just someone who I have a great amount of respect for and recommended people to you many times just because of how much I enjoy working with you and just think you're brilliant in what you do. So I'm really excited to get to dive in. So before we do though, I always like to start with asking you the question of, I need to know about Hector, the non-resume, non-LinkedIn version. So tell me about your story of like where you came from and how you got to be where you're doing now and all this crazy world. And then I'll help the audience understand why you're on this call with AI, because it's a fascinating topic to dive into with you. So give me the non-LinkedIn version of who the heck is Hector?
Okay, the reason that I'm an unhinged enough person to become a founder and pursue entrepreneurialism is because I grew up in the UK countryside. My dad was a VC investor at pre-IPO companies, so I was looking at pitch decks from 13 onwards. Fun story to teach me about investing. When I was 13, he gave me £1,000 and taught me about stocks and shares and how to read stocks. And I narrowed it down to two companies, and one was Game, which is your equivalent of GameStop, let's say. And then the other one was Amazon. And this is back in like early 2000s. If I put it all in Game, obviously went bankrupt, like Blockbuster, because no one uses physical copies of anything anymore. If it was Amazon, I would probably just be retired. Anyhow, that was one thing. The second thing is my family. I come from like a hyper social background. I was, even from the age of about 6, I was talking to adults, and I developed sales as a skill indirectly from that. I'm probably one of the only people that you'd ever meet that actually proactively went into sales. And so I had a bunch of side hustles growing up. So I would buy huge things of Coca-Cola for 50p a can, and in my school sell them for £1 a can. I got suspended from school because my dad was in Vietnam and got loads of fake Pokemon cards, and this is peak Pokemon mania. And I would trade them for real ones. Then they rained and they all fell apart. I was always doing loads of different side hustles. Then I got very lucky, joined a company called Cognizant. It was their first junior sales side there. Ended up as head of sales for the US, opened to their US expansion, left it around like 15 million ARR. And then I started on the founder journey, fundraise for a bunch of companies. And then this one, and also a side note, I also started a revenue syndicate, so we co-invest into early stage GTM companies. Right. And now this leads me into where we are a bootstrapped organization because I don't do fundraising anymore for a variety of different reasons. And now in the influencer marketing space from a sales background. So that's as succinct as I can make it. I appreciate that was still quite a long monologue.
No, I love hearing the background because like it's fascinating to hear where you've come from. And I've passed by random AI ideas by you because I know you hear ideas all the time because of the fundraising background you have and working with the syndicate, which is just fascinating. But so I know you hear about a lot of stuff out there, and I know you're an AI enthusiast because you literally were just showing me your website you built off of freaking AI. So it's crazy to see you apply this, but then you also have this very rich, the human side of like, how do you work with humans to be able to communicate, to be able to draw and build pipeline and awareness for companies. So give me now the details with Fluencer. Give me a little bit more about what you do and what you kind of specialize in. Make sure people understand the context.
Yeah, sure. The easiest way to describe what we do is we connect companies with business thought leaders, creators, B2B content creators, which is a slightly different thing. So the ideal outcome for this is, if you think about the history of influencer marketing, it started in the 1950s with like James Dean and Lucky Strike, like a micro smoking a cigarette,
Right.
gets motorbike. Then it went through to all Oral-B dentists recommend using Oral-B or whatever, which is like a persona
Right.
as the influencer. Then we've transitioned into Gymshark was probably the most successful, what most people think about when they consider a business with influencer marketing in general. And then this latest wave, which I feel very lucky to be the first mover in the space on, is business influencer marketing. So connecting VPs of sales, people like yourself, like GTM AI experts with reputable brands like HubSpot, Wix, Notion, to make sure that they're putting their brand messaging out there. And this is also a side result of AI, because it's now a race to the bottom when it comes to email, because now I can read someone's profile, give it to an AI agent, email the entire universe, and the cost of data has gone down so significantly. Like when I was working at Cognizant, a data provider, average cost per email was like $50. Sorry, not 50, 50 cents per email, somewhere around there. And it's now 0.01 cents. The only thing defensible is phone numbers. And what this meant is that as after COVID happened, companies were much stricter on spend, which means that you had more buyers. So there more emails got sent out, there are more buyers involved in the buying process. And so now you need a way to stand out as a part of your GTM toolkit. And so they've started looking for this external validation from people like yourself. And what we're currently seeing is the same market trends that the B2C influencer marketing has happened. What I mean by that is there was a creator bubble in the B2C space, which is also happening in the B2B space. Because it's so new, for both creators, agencies like myself, and brands, they fully understand the price points that should be being charged. In the B2C world, it totally broke the creator economy in 2014. And this is when you heard about the like adpocalypse, and loads of YouTubers complained about losing AdSense revenue.
Right.
The average price per post for creators from our data set has increased by about 37% in the space of 12 months, which is a meteoric rise. If you think about really what a lot of posts on, let's say like LinkedIn as a platform is spending 20 minutes to 40 minutes writing a collaboration piece of content with a brand, and then charging, the average used to be about 350, 400, and now it's gone up to 500. $500 for 20 minutes is not a bad day's work. And these are for creators who are small. Whereas, and now on the total other side, you've got creators with 30 to 40K followers on LinkedIn who are charging 5 to 10 grand a post and pulling somewhere in the region of 50 to 100,000 impressions. That is terrible CPM and CPE. Like it is just shockingly bad. But when you have B2B brands, which are way richer than B2C brands, and you're someone like, again, these tier one startup companies, you can just have an influx of cash. And okay, you have to show the results, you have to show the impressions, but it's a lot easier to spin this brand awareness story. And then the counter argument for the creators, because I've spoken to some creators and said, hey, I think you're charging quite a lot for this. And they said, well, part of my reasoning for this is if I get one opportunity sign up for an enterprise package of HubSpot, that contract value could be 500K plus. So actually, if I'm charging 20K for 3 posts or whatever it is, dropping the ocean to them. And so we're still in this. Luckily, as I said, we've built a lot of data. We sponsored well over 1,000 collaborations by this point, but it's still a bit of a wild west going on. And that's a lot of the reason companies work with us, because we know how to not get them fleeced.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, like, this is not necessarily an AI thing, but do you see, and I've had this conundrum as a influencer person working, is I always want to make sure I'm being authentic in my speech so that I only stand behind brands that I genuinely believe in. So like for me personally, I don't push a brand unless I believe in what they do and their technology and otherwise, because there's been several brands, one of which is in the news right now, I'm not going to bring it up, who approached me about doing an influencer campaign. I told them no, because I'm like, I don't believe in what you do. And it's an AI brand that would have paid me really well for one post. I'm like, nope, not doing it. And I told him, like, if you let me test this, I can show a case study, then I'll do it if I have results. But if you can't do that, then I'm not doing it. But on the other side of it, though, the people receiving the message around any post that I do, they could say this is promoted. So because it's promoted, it takes away from the I don't know if authenticity is the right word or the transparency. I'm just curious your thoughts on if someone knows it's a promoted post, do you see a lack of engagement because people are like, oh, they're paid to post this and who cares? Is that mindset come in, or is it more about what's the post about and what's the value it's creating and then no one cares?
So that I would describe as down to the artistry of the creator. Some people are very good at blending in personal stories, which are typically the highest performing engagement posts for someone's personal profile, in with a brand's messaging. And again, that's a lot of you've done a campaign set with us, right? Like we spend a lot of time kind of understanding how to position it rather than just being like, here is this feature and here is this, whatever else. Then you come across like a billboard. But if you've become head of marketing for Momentum recently, congratulations. Momentum, for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, basically allows you to ingest huge amounts of data from your CRM, customer calls, and email, and then query that data set to get desired outputs or drive processes. So if you're a creator in the space, that we're working with one recently who is a very established sales manager and talks about buying cycles and things like that, he can then put Momentum from his perspective of how it can automatically update his CRM, saves his team time so he can actually spend more time coaching. So that's much more of here is a problem, here's the application use case, and this is the way that I do it, rather than just a generalist product. And so I would say that's very much the creator's skill set. One of the creators, one of the skill sets if you're a good copywriter. In terms of the AI piece that creators are using currently, it's actually more for the preparation. One is the research. So they'll look at all of their highest performing posts, the kind of topics and trends of them, build themselves a kind of mini model to figure out, okay, well, I should talk about these topics more often because this audience that I want to grow resonates more with that than these others. So it's more about the data analysis and topical content. The other thing that I saw them trending towards, I don't know if they've done it yet, is they will basically do like a first draft. And some people have pretty advanced models. Like I'd really recommend checking out, I think he's called Kieran Flanagan. He's like the ex-CMO of HubSpot. His AI content is out of this world. And some of the stuff he's built is disturbing in terms of how excellent the content it can produce is.
What was his name? Can I ask?
The thing is Kieran Flanagan. He is the ex-CMO of HubSpot.
I think I have him already.
So he's built a model on, so the best model for content is Claude.ai, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure most copywriters will also agree with that. And his model can create like amazing lead magnets and posts. And he posted for a week only using this model he built. And it got crazy engagement. He said he grew like X amount of followers. And then he revealed that it was all just an experiment and all of it was AI written. And it sounded just like it.
That's awesome.
Else. Yeah. So he does stuff like that. So check him out. But just to wrap up this segment, the way that content creation is going currently is, I would say, more about the preparation unless you're someone like Kieran, who's a super advanced user and knows everything to do with these models, we won't see it being generated and it would still be an authentic person, or you would hope at least. It's to see if it's an AI. Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of studies around this. This is why I want to have you on to talk about this, is content, blogs, content marketing, anything written by AI. I can't remember who did the study, but it was one where if people knew it was written by AI, it didn't dramatically impact them consuming it. It was more about what they were getting out of the results of it. Like that, what was the outcome or the value of the actual post? And if it was a good value, they didn't care if it was AI or not. But if it was fluffy, then they care because like, this is a waste of my time. So it all comes down to, what am I getting out of this? Do you see that same thing with influencers on LinkedIn, to where the very obvious AI written stuff versus the person who, like me, I use AI all the time for LinkedIn posts, but I'm tweaking it as I go to make sure it follows my voice and my style and good formatting and all sorts of stuff. So it's, yes, AI helps me, but it's not copy paste. It's tweak, paste. Does that make sense? So like, what are you seeing as far as what's working, what's not working, and what do you suggest people?
Sure. I think the primary thing that people who are content creators specifically need to be aware of is, as soon as you get called out for it at court, that's when I think you'll lose your audience and damage your brand. And personal brand damage usually takes about a month to recover after you do that. So I would sprinkle it in here and there for the time being. If you have the same, this is Jonathan here, where I've seen your prompts, they're not normal prompts, they're like essays. Like
I'm a
Most people
crazy
are like,
person, but yeah.
yeah, no, most people like write me a LinkedIn post on this topic and they'll just copy and paste it from ChatGPT. And the first line is always something like, in the ever evolving, changing of digital landscape. That's the amount of times I see that
Horrible
phrase
line.
drives me. Yeah, I hate it. It comes up so much. But if you have like genuine IP prompts where you trained it, been very deliberate about it, and the first pass is send it to read it yourself. Does it sound like me? Then send it to a couple of your friends who you trust and just say, hey, what do you think of this post? And if any of them come back and say, is this written by AI? Then you probably should review it again. The other thing is, if you look at like Instagram, for example, there are now, I'm trying to think of a PG podcast way or webinar way of saying this. There are a lot of fast track profiles where someone's created these AI models of women not wearing very much clothing. And one of them is has got like 5 million followers and just landed a $2 million brand deal. And it's an AI generated person. And she appears next to real people and stuff like this and interacts with them and moves around. I don't see that wave happening in the B2B or B2C place for a couple of different reasons. One is that real thought leaders and B2B content creators have access to proprietary data within their CRMs and trends that AI models won't have access to. So for example, if a CEO is talking about their like growth metrics or like their headcount changes and things like that's happened at their company and those changes, or in marketing, you ran an experiment and you've got the results of that and you're a publicly traded company, people are going to read that content and engage with it and say, wow, PepsiCo created X amount of piece of content.
Right.
The AI models currently, you can't materialize that data. So unless they willingly share, like companies willingly share that information, it actually makes B2B content and business influencer marketing pretty defensible because of the lack of access to confidential information.
Yeah, I've been fascinated by this whole topic around where does the human start and the AI start, or where does the human and AI start, like all this concept, because I hate LinkedIn AI generated comments.
So
Because
much.
it's never me personally. I love AI. I do not use AI for comments on purpose because I'm like, I want to be the one engaging with whatever it is. And maybe it's just something as simple as, hey, I love this. And that's all I said. But I mean it. It's me writing it. It's not someone else. It's not AI. But my other question is on the other side of it is, what do you see actually helping with LinkedIn from an AI perspective? Is it things like lead delta? Is it like, what's the tech or the tools that is AI based that you're using? Or what do you also use inside of Fluencer to give you the analytics you need to identify what's working, what's not working? What do you think?
If I start with supporting brand in general, I think the best applications of use cases, if I'll try and give you a soundbite here, if I wanted to implement AI to optimize my content social strategy, the first thing I would use it for is content dissemination, taking your webinar podcast we're having now and breaking it up into a series of posts, a blog post, optimize it for SEO, and maybe even create some snippets and videos. Like you can use Opus Clip and stuff to add transcriptions. Yeah. It's a little bit of AI then, not really. The next thing that I would do is when you post this content and information, I would use the AI to do data analysis to gain the sentiment or any questions that came up repeatedly when distributing that content so that you can use it to spearhead your topic ideas and your creation. So actually from one recording, like we're probably going to talk for 45-ish minutes an hour, you'll be able to break this into numerous different pieces. I think that is every company should be doing that. And it is like a base layer requirement if you were to succeed specifically in marketing. I think the other thing that people are sleeping on a little bit, and I spent hours researching it and tried to figure out myself, and I found a couple of things, is this conversation between AIEO versus SEO. So how do I get my chatbots in like ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever models? How can I get my company name to appear there? And no one has really figured it out yet. I'm sure someone will start learning about it more, but it's such a new thing. Because, for example, I know that if I type in business influencer marketing, we sometimes appear, sometimes we don't. And I want to appear every time it comes up. The other thing that, in reference to like how we use it for a lot of profile analysis, understanding someone's content, and if they're a good fit with the brand, so we can ingest all of the creators' content that they've written, and then figure out, okay, as well as that analytics, so average engagement rate, things like that. Then also have a look at the content alignment, which is one of the most important pieces to running a successful campaign. And then the other thing that we use it for is actually the profile creation of the creators that we're working with, and like tagging. As I showed you before we hopped on this call, with building our platform at the moment, part of that process is setting up the creator profiles so that brands can discover them. Asking a creator to spend 10 to 15 minutes, quite a lot of friction to set their pricing and build their profile. And so being able to spin one up quickly is the click of a button is important for us.
Yeah, that's cool. So what do you feel like, how should brands be thinking around from your, I know obviously you have a unique lens because you're with the influencer, and most marketers I talk to are more like the content marketing or digital marketing or SEO kind of stuff, but you have a little bit different lens. So how do you suggest to brands to think about where they employ something like an influencer human to get the voice out there? And then where do they use AI? What's the balance between the human and AI with what you're seeing?
AI is really good for starting projects. It's not great at finishing them. So if you imagine it a bit like a funnel, I would use AI to do the research to identify what one is the best creators that to work with. Two is the kind of topic and contents that are going to resonate with that creator's audience. And then give that information, whether it's a lead magnet use that information to create your content.
Yeah. With
that content, give it to the creator, get their own input on it, and let them put their human touch and creative spin in that. Give that content a soul, I guess that's the term I'll use, to distribute it. And then on the back end, turn those insights into more data to start the engine. And as I said, like either content dissemination or wider spread blog posts or things like that. So you still need the creators, like human touch, as it were, to give their audiences enough to make them think, okay, this creator is talking to me as a person, helping me or providing value to me.
Yeah.
Then if I think about a company called Mango, so Mango is a retail brand for anyone that's not aware. They just had their most profitable quarter ever because they stopped paying models, stopped paying for photo shoots, and they just used AI models, and they had the most amazing quarter ever. During that quarter, they were literally just using it for image creation. So I think basically people wearing their clothes was a huge thing in retail and in impressive settings and things like that. You can't, again, it's just a picture. Whereas with B2B thought leadership and B2B content and the space or niche that we operate in, you have to have the knowledge to be able to talk from a position of authority. Like AI just can't do it yet. Maybe in future, maybe someone's much cleverer than either of us are.
Right.
And they manage to crack it.
Someone will, but yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. Well, let me ask you my last question, because I know people listening or people in the space who want to know how the heck do I get as much juice out of LinkedIn as I can. So this is not necessarily an AI question, but it's definitely a LinkedIn marketing question, which is, of all the campaigns you've done, of all the posts you've seen, you see people doing the comment to get this piece of content, people giving a video on whatever, like Chris Walker does a video, or it's just a snippet from his podcast, and he does amazingly well because his content is not controversial, but it's thought-provoking, so people engage with it. So there's different strategies that work for different people. What are the top, I don't know, 3 things, 5 things, whatever you want to call it, but what's the 3 things you say a brand needs to decide on these 3 things and double down on it so you can resonate with the audience? Like, how does someone discover that so they can really tap into what LinkedIn can provide?
Sure. So if I'm thinking about the 5 things that are really going to drive results, one is you want to be working with the best creators in your niche, and also be very specific. I have seen some companies sponsor people, and I think that's a weird sponsorship because let's say it's like marketing in general, and that person might have an amazing profile and pull thousands of eyeballs, loads of engagements, and that kind of stuff. But then the company that's sponsoring them does GTM AI marketing, like a very specific subset and niche of marketing. And the people that actually would implement that solution are like marketing operations people or very data heavy marketing individuals. That is a bit like spraying a machine gun and hoping it works. And so the steps that I would take as a brand is get a list of 50, approach this 50, find out their price points, see if you can sponsor and put some posts, run a small experiment. It would cost anyone listening, I'd say it depends on the size of the creative, but like 5 to 10 grand, you can prove an experiment doing it. The second thing that branch, do you want me to answer this for a brand side or an influencer side? Because it's slightly different.
I would say like what both go and brand do with influencers, and then what they do with their own content to make sure it's like actually so that their own content, whether you're an influencer or a person or like a CEO of a company or the brand, like how do you get more engagement impressions?
More juice. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing I would do, so one is I would do that experiment. Two is I would build your content dissemination flows. Speak to your content team and see what your best performing pieces of content are, and see if you can just refresh them based off latest trends that you identified using research and analysis and sentiment analysis of people posting in the comments of topics that your audience cares about. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about how they've phrased that correctly. So that's really important, right? It's a bit like when a new social media trend or a new wave comes out. So for example, agentic AI is everything anyone is talking about in the investor VC community. In the last 3 months alone, it's attracted nearly $500 million of funding, and I only expect it to go up. So anything to do with agentic AI, all of the comments in there, if you do the sentiment analysis on them, you could pretty quickly figure out, okay, when my company or Momentum talks about agentic AI, we should try and resonate with these audiences, and here's the piece of information that they care about, or the questions they have. The third thing that I would think about when it comes to your own personal brand, your company's brand, is collaborating with other companies about topics that interest the both of you. So one of the things that we're going to start doing towards the end of this year is, if you are a data provider like Apollo and there is an email sequencing solution like Outreach.io, they should do collabs. Look at like Supreme, the skateboarding brand, sponsored Oreo and did all these strange collaborations. I haven't seen a B2B company do this yet, and I think it could be quite a cool thing, where not just your traditional partnership where everyone says like, oh, we're doing like lead sharing, which I use like Crossbeam or whatever it is, so you can mutually share accounts, but actually doing a unique collaboration and making it more of a social campaign, I think is something that I would encourage your audience to do and attempt. And the other thing would be, I think the most important thing, which a lot of people aren't doing, is experimenting how far you can get with no-code tools. I was showing you a few things just before I was here. So the first two things are like actionable points, where it's about ingesting data, getting desired outcomes, content dissemination. But regardless of if you're marketing, sales, whatever it is, I've been using Lovable for 4 months now, and I cannot code. I know 1% of coding knowledge. You can build incredibly useful tools extremely fast that work, and you can deploy and can add value to all your functions. So that content dissemination engine, there is no reason someone couldn't go and code and develop that just by using prompts and typing it in. And I think the most successful companies in this next wave are gonna, or even, not even just companies in general, but the most successful teams. So if anyone listening is part of a team that is in like a marketing team, whatever else, I would, all of you, just sit around a table and think about, okay, what processes really suck? What could we make better tooling for? Because you can make something that is so bespoke, no matter how niche a company you are, to get the desired outcome. You can just plug in their APIs. You literally just take an API to say, hey, can you build an API to do this and it will trigger this and the other, and build up these things. And I think SaaS companies, because if you imagine the classic SaaS pricing model, and it's like tier 1, you get features 1 and 2. But if you upgrade to tier 2, you get features 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you have to pay 5 times as much money. But you only want feature 7. So why do I have to pay for everything else? It's nuts. So I think they're all going to start experiencing a lot of churn, because I would like people to do what I just mentioned, where you just build that feature yourself. It'll take you like probably a day or two, maybe speak to your dev team to make it stable. But apart from that, yeah. And in terms of where the market's moving, the companies that are going to succeed are going to be the ones that build these tools and then build the proprietary data sets that go along with them. A bit like your prompt engineering guides that you've been doing, like all of that stuff. It is, sorry, I realized all of that stuff is not going to help anyone that's just doing audio.
No.
What I mean by that is if you write really detailed prompts, give the models a ton of data and digest it and structure in such a way that you get the desired outputs. So if you can blend those two things together, these micro builds and micro tools for you, plus your own IP, and then be able to just create these efficiencies and just run these experiments like over and over again, and eventually develop an army of AI agents to start doing things for you. And I, as you said, like I was lucky enough that I get a lot of pitch decks. And so I'm considered myself like pretty tuned up about what's coming out and what's around the corner. There's AI is going to continue being really stupid or what I would consider to be stupid for at least 3 to 4 more years. And so this idea, like I've heard people talking about like, oh, software engineers, life is over and stuff like that. Not for a while. Right. AI gets stuck in too many loops. And there's also this other issue, which is the rate that models are getting released. All that looks really fast. Rock came out, DeepSeek came out, these other ones came out. The amount of available data, we've ingested the entire internet. So what is now happening is AI models are producing more data to then reconsume it, right? So the AI is creating its own output, then training it on itself with its own output, because it needs to synthesize more data so it can continue learning, which has basically meant that we did 80% in the last 4 years of growth, but each percentile improvement is going to take a year or 2 years more. And I don't think we'll ever reach an efficacy above 90%, just because of the sheer amount that we've had, which means that innovation, like we've had all of the innovation I think we're going to have for the next 2 or 3 years of anything like truly mind-blowing. The applications of it are going to be interesting. So they're releasing like video models and new things like that. But in terms of the foundational tech layer, I doubt we'll see that much more improvement.
Fascinating, man. Well, I can't wait to have you show your website and get it launched and be able to talk about your journey on building it out. Like you showed me the back end. I think it's freaking awesome what you're able to do with it. I think it's just so cool. You can do that now. Whereas before you had to work through a dev team and worry forever, and now you just build it on your own using different AI tech. It's just fascinating.
I'm such a lovable fanboy that I'm hoping that when Fluencer breaks 10 million ARR, I can tell them like, oh, I just did it all lovable. And then I become a host boy. And then yeah.
I love it.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man. What's that? Fluencer.com. So FLOOENCER.com is the right website.
That's correct. Yeah.
Are you okay if I give people your LinkedIn so people want to get in touch with you, they can reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. If you just contact me on LinkedIn, it's Hector Forwood, and I've got dinosaur emoji either side of my name to catch people doing automation, and I like dinosaurs. Yeah. Fluencer.com is the website.
Awesome. Okay, good. All right. Well, my man, nothing but a pleasure as always. And I can't wait to get this out there for people to see. And then when you launch I'll have to time this when you launch the website and launch at the same time. So it's like we can have the back end talking about it versus the front end so people can see what's being fun.
Awesome. All right. Cheers.
Cool. Thanks, my man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the GTM AI podcast. Please follow, subscribe, like, comment, and come back for more.